Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is April the 10th of 2024. I am Nick, here with Quinn to talk about the manga of the week.
Yeah. It's gonna be an interesting episode, Nick. I don't know if I've told you what's going on in Casa de Quinn. It ain't great. It's not going super awesome. So if you see me checking my phone a lot during the episode, please bear with me. I'm not always on Reddit when I'm on my phone. Sometimes I'm responding to important family messages. But I've been very stressed recently, and there's different responses people can have towards stress. I find with ADHD, one of them is just to get an immediate dopamine hit, which thank gosh I'm not, addicted to like alcohol or drugs or anything like that. My drug is perhaps worse. I did on a whim pick up the Sonic the Hedgehog cookbook.
On a whim.
On a whim. I was like, you know what I need right now? Sonic the Hedgehog. And I think I own all the games at this point. What else can Sonic add to my life? And this is kind of like a Bible in and of itself. He mostly teaches you about different chili dogs. So
I was going to say, Sonic the Hedgehog is not a franchise that I associate with depictions of a varied culinary plot. So I did think immediately like chili dogs and the ice cream from Sonic Unleashed. Like that's about it.
So there's like a thing I'm discovering that there's like a whole kind of subworld that I've never been part of that's like franchise cookbooks. It's almost like an artistry in and of itself. Where sometimes you are like trying to just recreate something that exists within that property, and in other times, like Sonic the Hedgehog, or perhaps like the Street Fighter official cookbook, or the One Piece official cookbook, or the Neopets cookbook, as an example. Look, there's just a lot of cookbooks out there that don't always have like full recipes. You sometimes just make stuff up in the flavor of it. So there are a lot of things in this cookbook that are just things that you normally could make, but throw some blue shit in it somewhere.
Right.
Which is why I'm drinking tonight. My first recipe from this is the Hydrosity. It's actually pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. I'll throw it up in our cooking channel in our Discord a little bit later. I just need people to know that Sonic the Hedgehog is very important to me in the same way like Christians get very excited about Jesus. They also get excited about Sonic, but about Jesus, that's what I have with Sonic. This is not really like an end. There's not like a closing line to this bit. I made this drink. It's actually very good. I needed to share this, I guess.
Okay. I mean, I've definitely seen some of those themed cookbooks before. My wife, who's much more into cooking than I am, but is also equally as big a nerd, has gotten many of them in the past.
Now, once I finish making the recipes from the Sonic the Hedgehog cookbook, would you like me to pass this along to Nicole and she can make you, for example, let's see here. Let's look for a good one. I mean, some of them are just regular shit that they're like, Eggman, chicken, fried chicken. There is 4 different kinds of hot dogs in this, and one of them is just called the Evil Dog. Yeah, here we go. The perfect egg dog. This is Eggman's hot dog. Imagine if you put a egg salad on top of a hot dog. So
I can think of worse things to do.
There you go. So, all right, I'll pass this along then. Once I finish this, once I master all of Sonic's recipes.
All right, once you S rank all of the recipes.
Now, understand, this will probably never happen because I've never finished S ranking a Sonic the Hedgehog game in my life.
Right.
But
The key is to bounce to go to the final screen and keep on jumping, because
Yeah.
then you can sometimes get some
Oh,
bonus points from there. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Hmm.
Even like the later games.
Especially the later games,
Oh,
as
okay.
far as I know. Yeah.
I will say, Black Gendo brings up a good point. There is no Team Dark hot dog. Shadow does have several recipes. It's actually very amusing. Like each recipe is written by, there's like a little intro by a character written by Ian Flynn, who does the comics. And all the Shadow ones are just very like pretentious and edgy, which is very good. But my favorite character from the Sonic franchise does not have a recipe in here. Now, granted, that is Omega, who is a robot who does not eat food. So I guess he
Right.
wouldn't have anything to offer. He's like, here's some rebar I sometimes snack on. I guess you can put some pepper on it if you want.
Here are some animals I have consumed whole in order to capture.
I'm like, thanks, Omega. I'm gonna hold off on that
Eat
one.
a rabbit, but do not kill it when you eat it.
That's gonna be a challenge, but interesting. Anyways, that's what's going on. What's
All
what's
right.
going on with Nick?
What's going on with me? I watched a lot of wrestling this weekend.
Oh yeah, was there a big event?
There might have been.
I say this legitimately. I'm not actually. Oh wait, no, WrestleMania happened.
WrestleMania happened this
Which
weekend.
I only knew because my sister texted and she was like, "My husband's watching WrestleMania," which blew my mind.
Right.
He has not touched wrestling since the '90s, and just on a whim, I guess because he has Peacock, was like, "Yeah, fuck it." The Rock's gonna be at one of these, I think.
That is how a lot of people do watch WrestleMania. Is they watch no wrestling for the entire rest of the year, and then they're like, "Oh, some famous people I know are going to be on this show," and they do watch it. So that's why they have famous people on.
Mickey
that show.
Rourke is going to be at this WrestleMania.
Not this one.
He's coming back soon, though, right? Getting that prestigious celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, so I watched it, and it was nice because I actually watched a wrestling show, and I was happy. And
there you
that's
go.
Kind of
That's
crazy.
Great. What were you happy because your favorites won?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, Cody finally won. So, anyway.
Spoilers.
It happened 2 days ago. 3 days ago. Ugh. Anyway, so we do have wrestling. Not wrestling.
We do have wrestling to talk about, guys.
All right, so New Japan is putting on a show tonight, and
oh, it's gonna be like, guys, I thought we'd make a bigger deal of this, but we have both read the entirety of it. We're gonna talk about Kaneko Man today.
Be something of a shock, yes.
We both kept this really well in the down low, which is interesting because we literally have an audience member named after this fucking manga.
Okay, we have manga to talk about today. Not as much as we usually do, but we do have quite a few series and also some like really big ones that are happening this week. And let's get into probably the biggest one, because it's the one where Nick eats crow. That's what everyone loves most, is whenever one of us makes a bold proclamation and immediately falls flat on their face. My Hero Academia, Chapter 419, Design. Last time, All For One, the guy that nobody likes, shows up and disrupts the internal world that Shigaraki and Deku have been having their seemingly final confrontation in, to take it over and assume control of everything. Because it turns out all of this was part of my plan. Right.
He's a bad guy. Nick, it turns out All For One is a bad guy.
Amazing. Deku, whose little kid arms have been disintegrated off, falls away from this after All For One has literally, metaphorically, eaten Shigaraki and consumed him. And All For One declares that Tenko's spiritual defeat here in this subconscious realm has allowed my own consciousness to claw back control. Foolish Tenko Shimura, a pure, credulous superego, a soft simpleton, unable to relinquish his cretinous life. Checking his word of the day calendar as he goes through this stuff.
Yeah.
And so he says, as I mentioned, not a single one of your choices has been your own. I had to make you think that you made those decisions, or else your strength of will would have been stunted. It was crucial to twist around your illusion of free will. Daigoro Banjo, aka Lariat. En Tayutai, aka Smoke Eater. That's a good superhero name. Did we know that of him before? I don't think we did.
I mean, is that the guy whose power was smoke screens?
The smoke screen.
Is that
Smoke Eater?
Is that like? But you don't eat smoke. You create smoke.
So
I'm just saying that if your name is Smoke Eater, you should get rid of smoke.
Anyway,
nope. This is my hill to die on, Nick. Podcast stops here. If your name is Smoke Eater and you make smoke, Nick, when you eat something, how much is left of it at the end?
It depends.
That's right. Less, I assume, right? He makes more.
Quinn, I can sell this for us right now. The smoke he produces, he farts out.
Okay.
After having previously eaten it.
Oh, okay. So that makes more sense. So it's like Smoke Eater, like he eats to make smoke.
Right. The more direct line is Smoke Farter, but that's an embarrassing hero name. So it's like, technically, I do eat the smoke.
Yeah.
So nobody say where it comes from. Everyone shut up.
Why does the smoke smell so stinky?
All smoke smells.
We should call you Stink Eater. Like, nope, Smoke Eater. That's the name.
Sounds so much better.
I really can't. I already did the branding. The trademarks are in. I can't. It's very expensive to redo that. Please don't.
So, R one, of course, looked for a soul that he would be strong enough for him to steal away one for all. He had encounters with these two heroes and knew from them that I can't just take it away. I need to have a strength of will that is greater than them. But where would it be? I sought a seedbed fertile for hatred to grow. And as we see in the continuing flashback that All for One had with Tenko's dad, these days, heroes never show up to offer aid when they're needed, and children need siblings because nobody else will help them out. Yes, the daughter, his firstborn, was already too far along. I couldn't afford to be caught, so I never quite overstepped. Just a few nudges from the shadows. I removed the yet unknown quirk factor passed down by her parents. So he took away whatever Tenko's original quirk was after making drinking buddies with Tenko's dad and getting close to the family at certain points. And then he encouraged Tenko's father to be strict. He encouraged him to be an asshole. It was all for one.
Uh-huh.
The reason that Tenko's dad was abusive and a shithead. It was all him. Anyway.
Now, I've heard some people bring out that I guess this is technically a scene forward, so I'll wait a second till the actual scene comes up.
Right. And at a certain point, he essentially, offered to hold Tenko's hand while they were, crossing the street, and that was when he actually passed on the quirk. And where did this quirk come from?
Yeah, I think... Isn't that supposedly a scene that they cut from the anime or something? There's some scene that wasn't included in the anime that was, part of, a panel or something in a chapter of the manga that Bones was just be like, this isn't important, we don't need
this isn't important.
And it's one of these things oops.
Whoops! I don't remember that. But
this is just something I saw online.
Happening or not happening. So, anyway, it's here now. So, the quirk was sourced from one of the good doctor's facilities. We stripped away half of it, the ability to reverse its effects, leaving an incomplete subpar copy engineered solely to promote destruction. The very quirk I granted you. And where did this quirk come from? Fucking Overhaul.
Yeah.
So Shigaraki's quirk is literally an incomplete copy of Overhaul's Destroy and Recreate quirk. That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Good for
him. Makes sense. It also makes sense why Overhaul has been, brought back into, the story, even if he hasn't been doing anything since breaking out of prison, but he's, occasionally been, referenced as being still around and stuff. So as this happens, Shigaraki, who is, like has completely fallen into this void consumed by All for One, is like, wait, you mean, yes, the tragedy, the ordeals, the rejection, the validation, all granted by me. All that you are. You speak of your unwavering heart. Nonsense! For shame! Be gone from my body. Yeah, so it was all me. I did everything.
Mm-hmm. It was all me, Austin. It was me all along. Ichigo, I was the Higoku. What other big ones can we reference?
I was Madara the whole time.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, it's this is the big moment. I was the one controlling everything. Which I guess we'll talk about. I mean, we knew this is what it was going towards last week, so we talked about it a bit there. But we'll, I guess, speak to this chapter when we get to the end. Because we don't want to talk over the best part. Because all this is happening in the dreamscape, Nick. Which, of course, last week you mentioned. This is
none of it was real. It was all just imagery.
It's inconsequential, yeah.
Yeah. So, Deku is rejected from this world. He can no longer reach Shigaraki, of course. And in the physical world, All for One is now fully in control of Shigaraki's body. There is, in fact, the first thing that he does, there is, like, clearly, as he's speaking, there's an undernote of Shigaraki screaming. And so he's like, a lingering note, and grows a hand over his own mouth to gag Shigaraki. I don't know exactly how that allows him to talk, but whatever. So it works. So he looks around and he examines the body and is like, the spiritual damage has taken its toll on the flesh. Decay, his rage and hatred are no more. The vessel I spent years searching for and cultivating is ruined, as is my brother. All that remains is my hollow, immaterial final goal. That is to say, the world. So essentially, he's like, all my plans are like kaput. Like, I don't get to have like my big ultimate plan succeed. So all that's left is to destroy everything. Fair enough. Deku, who is out in the physical world and is totally fine again, says, I will and then stumbles because he's got no arms, Quinn!
Oh, no! Arms! Nick! You said his arms were going to be fine! What happened to his arms?
Clearly an unrelated incident to all of this took away. Somebody came by. That, a random arm thief came by and was like, have those.
It's one of those things where sometimes, this is like a thing I've seen people talk about happening to them. Like when they go inside of someone's like sort of mental dreamscape, oftentimes their body just puts too much pressure on their arms and their arms just explode from the elbows down underneath them. That's a thing that maybe they're referencing here.
Yeah, it's like phantom limb syndrome or whatever.
Yeah, or this is, I mean, we've always kind of wondered, like, what if Deku had his own quirk? His quirk could be his arms explode. And manifested right now.
Good job, Deku.
It's a one-time kind of activation.
It's a very gruesome picture. Like, no freaking turning away from this shit. Just big old bloody stumps for a full page. And yeah, of course, in the shock of the moment, in between going, because he's, lost his arms and is bleeding out everywhere. Deku, thinks about like how he had been warned about using his arms and having them break and stuff. And he also thinks about the times that people have reached out to him and taken his hand. Ooh, grim.
It's pretty brutal, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's good. It's effective.
But Deku also says, not done yet, so he still intends to fight. All for One says, loss engenders strength. That is a narrative trope I intend to establish. You can't establish that trope. It's already established. Come on, dude. But he also mocks Deku and says, such a pitiful end was inevitable for a child with nothing to lose in the first place. Asshole. Oh, fuck you.
Yeah, all right, Jared. Come on.
I think I think that's also racist. But all of a sudden, who should come swinging in to save Deku?
This was legit one of the wildest page turns I've had in a manga for a very long time.
It's fucking Sero with his tape, and he binds up All for One to prevent him from attacking Deku. And he says, "Need some saving, pal?" And fucking Ojiro and Sato come swinging in and attack too.
It's starting to make more sense when I saw the other two show up, but for a moment I was like, are they really going to give a gigantic hero moment to Sero of all people? Like, I was like, this goes one of two ways. Sero, for some reason, really helped save the day, or All for One is going to kill him to immediately show off how strong and cool he was. I was like, I have no idea. When I saw it, I was like, okay, I actually get what they're going for now, but this was a wild turn.
But it's not just the students, because coming through a portal, a very Kurogiri-looking portal, is Aizawa. And he says, "Sorry for the delay." Well, okay. It looks like we're in the 9th inning, folks, because yeah, so All for One has essentially gone Kid Buu, where he is in his not his strongest form, but his most dangerous, and everyone is at their very limits. So literally the last people you expect to show up and save the day are here to try and do it. And we'll see how this goes. Will someone die in the course of all of this?
That would be so cruel.
Is Deku going to just permanently lose his arms? What's going to happen there? There's a billion different ways that we could technically get him his arms back, but is this permanent? We shall see.
I mean, have we had a situation where characters just straight up regrown one of their limbs without it being like explicitly part of their quirk to do so?
No.
Because like I say, like we haven't seen Eri do, and we've seen characters like Aizawa and Mirko who like seemingly are that's like a permanent thing for them.
Eri, it has been indicated, can do it.
Okay.
It's just that, she's very young and inexperienced in using her powers.
Now, weird thought. Did they ever kind of like follow up on or like establish what happened when the League of Villains like attacked Overhaul's truck and took his power?
I mean, they took his arms.
Oh, that was for the bullets, right?
Yeah.
That was so they could make the bullets. Okay. Part of me was like, maybe they're going to do something with that, and he can use it because they've reestablished, like, oh, Jigaraki's quirk should also be able to repair things. So, like, maybe he could heal it or something, but...
It's possible that the other half of it could awaken somehow, and maybe, when Shigaraki regains control, maybe he'll do it. Overhaul is still out there, so maybe there is some way where he could do something in this, or it could be Eri, or, like freaking Mirko's running around with bionic limbs right now. Maybe that's what we're going to have to do with Deku. Like, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they brought up Eri very recently makes me think they're going to try to do something. Okay. So I'm still not, like, turned around on having to deal with All for One again. Like, no. I'm just not super into this guy. I kind of almost like that it seems to be like leaning deeper into him being just a dork ass loser. Like he always talks about his fucking storybook shit, but I love him being like, oh, this narrative trope I have to nail down or whatever. But I don't want to think this dude's cool. Like I watched him like suck shit and get completely owned, and I want to kind of keep that energy. But like as for like a big hero moment, especially like some of the weaker characters, Foxcloak in our chat brings up a good point that's something All for One hates is like people with weak quirks getting one over on him. So I think that's kind of a cool thing.
What are you talking about, Quinn? This guy's got a tail. He's got a tail.
That is true. He has a whole fucking tail. So I was talking about Sato, Sugar Man. He sucks.
I mean, he's going to crash. I mean, yeah.
So. Oh, he's gonna go to sleep. Real good. He's really gonna get tuckered out soon.
Yeah. Have really bad shits later on. Yeah.
Oh no. The worst drawback to a quirk. Nick, would you take the ability to have laser eye beams if every time you used it, it gave you awful diarrhea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just wouldn't use them very often.
Knowing every time though, you're like, ooh, I'm really gonna pay for this in like an hour.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like I just wouldn't use it very often unless I really had to, and then it'd be like, okay, I'll use this, and then I'll just have really bad diarrhea for a while.
Wow, you're so no. Because I assume you're using it for good.
No.
Oh
No. Well, yes, but some people wouldn't think so. I'll say no more.
Just you lasering the kneecaps of every quarterback in the NFC South that's on the Buccaneers.
All right, let's move on to Undead Unluck.
Yeah, let's talk about Undead Unluck. This is number 202. Clouds part, dragon appears. So last time, Nico did his big explosion science attack, and we see that it's not actually that effective on language. Language just kind of survived the explosion, and she's just smiling. She's like, this is how you intend to fight. Nico's like trying to stay calm, but he's like, that's not great. Didn't really do much to her. All right, well,
Nope.
I guess now I have a pretty firm grasp on the rules, but like, and he specifically points out, he's like, there is an advantage to going second because you get to respond to what the other person created. So that's kind of like the combo he needs to do, because you go second, you do your thing, potentially counter their thing, and then you get to like go first again immediately. So like, he's like, that's the area you need to like look forward to. But he's like, what can I do to actually hurt her? Because she's completely unfazed by this explosion. Her comment's just like, wow, what a scorcher. He's like, shit, I can't defeat her with physical attacks, so I'll have to make her lose the game of Shiratori by the rule. And then he remembers, he's like, hey, wait a minute. Didn't you lose because you used eruption? That ends with an N. And she's like, yeah, but it translates in Japanese to a word that doesn't end with an N. And you can use N in other languages. Like the English version of this game doesn't end that way. In fact, sometimes it doesn't even have rules for ending. You just kind of play it till you get bored. But essentially, as long as the word doesn't translate into Japanese with a word that ends with an N, it's fair game. You can use an N, anything else. So as more and more languages get added into this game, it becomes more and more possible to just continue to avoid any rule that would actually end the game. And that's when Ichiko and Nico realize, like, shit, this means that, like, if this game continues long enough, there's just no way to beat her using the rules. Because she'll know all these languages and you won't. Like, it's impossible. So, she starts taunting. She's like, yeah, you can use all the science you want. You can do anything you need to. But if you can't, like, if you're too hurt to continue to play, or you end a word that translates into Japanese using N, then you lose, and I get to kill you, basically. So Nico starts panicking. He's like, this isn't good. I don't really know if I could physically beat you. So I was really hoping on the game rules to be like my N. And now that more languages are getting added, it just gets more and more complicated. And the entire time it's going, like, she's asking, like, okay, you have to add a new language and pick a word or whatever. So he realizes, he's like, all right, I just got to buy myself some time. So he uses the word wall, creates a big wall. We cut over to Fuko, who is flying to try to intervene. And she is stopped by a fleet of, bomber jet planes.
Yep, those are definitely fighter jets.
Yeah.
Like a whole bunch of them.
They all have, like, weird, like, animal heads or, like, crazy faces to them. And Fuko realizes those are UMAs. We cut over and see what is presumably War saying, like, giving, like, an order to them all, like, hey, you all need to do your duty, you maggots, and interfere with them, basically. So they're like, shit, we're not going to be able to make it in time. We cut back to the game, and we see that language has made the Lance of Longinus. Longinus, I think is the way it's pronounced.
I think it's Longinus.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why my brain blanks, because I've always heard it as the spear of Longinus. I never heard it as the lance. But anyway, she uses...
It's alliteration this way,
She uses the spear that killed Jesus to break a wall. It's pretty cool. And she just destroys it, and Nico is just like, fuck, that was my black iron wall. You're not supposed to be able to break that. Only Unbreakable should be able to get through that. And she's just like, Yeah, you probably thought a wall would be like really sturdy, but romanticism trumps logic. This is like a really cool lance, so of course it's gonna get to your normal ass wall. So she's like, all right, it's my turn to add a language. I had Chinese. She picks Shenlong and summons a gigantic sort of Chinese style dragon. And
with big old eyes too.
yeah, he's got a lot of things to look at. Or she. I shouldn't have assumed. This could be a mama dragon, girl boss dragon. I'm looking forward to seeing what she does. We actually find out in this chapter. So Ichigo was like, "Wait, you can summon dragons? Like that's not a real thing. Like how can you do that?" And language is like, "You can summon anything. All it just requires is imagination, basically. You guys, like, I could do it really easily, but you two are such intellectual types that you just don't have this like creativity in you. Basically, you don't have the imagination." So Nico is trying to figure out what next word to use, and Ichigo jumps in and is like, all right, then we'll send a huge Japanese yokai monster, Umibozu, and summons a very tiny, adorable Umibozu. It's like, it's like maybe a foot long.
It's like Ichiko's size. Ichiko in her soul form size.
it is very tiny. It immediately gets like fire breathed on it, and Nico's like, "Why did you make it cute?" She's like, "I just based it off of what I knew," but that managed to, and she can't finish that sentence. She like suddenly like falls. Her soul falls like in pain, and Nico's like, "Wait, what's going on? You should be fine. Hey, what's going on with the Chico?" And like he looks over the language. She's not saying anything, and he realizes all like the glass tanks behind him have been shattered by this attack, and he's like, "Fuck! It's doing damage to support like the support systems, keeping or Ichiko alive basically at this point." So, like I thought she took no damage when the wall was destroyed, but
I think that's not the point.
Oh, is it not?
Well, so he goes on to say that, like, I took no damage after the wall was destroyed. So what was the difference between this turn and the last turn? This was about between things that aren't real, a battle of imagination. Ichiko can hardly interact with anything on a physical level, yet she still took damage.
Oh.
So seemingly it has to do with things that are imaginary battling versus things that are physical and real in this case. So he'll take damage from physical things, and since Ichiko is a soul, I think the implication is that...
Well, that's that he's saying specifically not that he doesn't take damage when physical things break, but she might take damage when her things are defeated probably because she's a soul, and like we're already establishing souls are kind of the power like thing of this game now. So,
right.
Yeah, okay, that does make more sense. I just assumed all the broken glass there. So he realizes like, okay, like Ichiko could hardly interact with anything on a physical level, yet she took damage. Why is that? It's all part of this battle. So I need to uncover more secrets, but if we can't defeat this dragon, we lose. Next up is the letter U, or the Japanese sound Zu. So we have to think of something that could beat a dragon. Does something like that even exist? What one word can do it? It doesn't have to be one word if Lance of Longinus is there. So Ichiko pipes in though and is like, I think there's something I need you to know and I need you to do. So she contacts Fuko and she has a conversation where we don't exactly understand what it is. Fuko's just like, I don't know if that person will come. And she's like, don't worry about it, just do it. So Fuko is like, all right, transfer points of the current 10th seat Sean and pass it over to Feng Quolon. Unfade is the word that is picked, and Feng shows up. He just is teleported.
He was napping
into the arena. He is sleeping, but also in just his natural sleeping state. He is so physically fucking awesome. He kicks this dragon and seemingly knocks it out. Like, that's how strong he is. And we end this chapter with the announcement that this is the neutralization of language, and the participants are Nico, Ichiko, and now Fang as well, who has become a member of Union. Against his will. He probably won't be super excited about this, but
no.
I think that's cool.
They'll have to convince him that this will somehow allow him to have a fight with Fuko or something like that.
Yeah.
But Yeah, an interesting wrinkle that gets added here. I obviously it's going to be weird to see how these three characters interact.
This is a
Uh,
very interesting collection of characters.
I was happy with Nico and Ichigo getting the focus, kind of all on their own, but you do run up against the point of like, okay, they don't really have any firepower to speak of, so you'd have to really do something weird in order for them to have a chance against language. So yeah, I mean, I do like the utilization of like, okay, well, we'll use your game of Shiratori to summon an ally of ours.
I like it's very creative to use sort of the way the rules work to add a new member to the team by using to get you there. I think that's like pretty creative. I'm curious to see what Fang is going to do here because I don't think they've established like he doesn't know about souls, so like
No.
I don't know what he's necessarily there for. But I'm also just very interested because we don't really know how Fang interacts with anybody outside of like Fuko and Shen and like the small circle around that. Like the only thing we really know is he tried to escape the like the class photo that they tried to take during the
Right.
Chikara arc. So I'm just interested to see this guy try to interact with these characters. So I don't know. It seems cool.
Absolutely. All right. Blue Box, chapter 144. Let's replace it.
Don't worry, guys. It's actually not that sad for Haru after all.
It's all gonna be okay.
This is real. Don't worry, Damon Double Bats. There's actually another round secretly into the tournament that you can get in there on.
Literally coming fresh off of the conversation between Haru and Taiki at the end of the last chapter, where he said, "Come on, don't worry about me. Just go on ahead and don't lose to anyone." He says in the beginning of this one, "Besides, it's still too early to start missing me. There's tomorrow's doubles. And my current partner is Nishida, who's kind of capable."
I thought it was interesting because I was like, they never mentioned doubles ever since like one of the first arcs was Taiki had to team up with Haru.
Yeah.
And like outside of that, it's just never come up. So in my mind, I was just like, there must be like just a more established doubles team at their school. And the answer was no. It's just Haru and fucking one of the two other characters on the team that's not like relevant in this situation.
There's a series called Never Have I Ever, which unfortunately like had a very disappointing final season. But one of my favorite elements of it, because it's a coming of age sitcom about a Indian American girl and like experiencing like growing up, dealing with the grief over losing her father and all these things, and it's also very funny. And for whatever reason, her inner life is narrated by John McEnroe, the tennis player.
Okay. Interesting choice.
It's explained that like when she was a kid, like her dad like loved watching John McEnroe and stuff. He's like, oh, he's the best and stuff. So I guess that means he's her inner narrator or whatever. But he keeps on making like all these like tennis player references in the middle of stuff. He's like, now Debbie's on like the debate team, and I don't know anything about that nerd stuff, but if I could make a comparison to tennis. And at one point he made a reference to like these twins, their names escape me, these twins who are like very prominent doubles champs but not very well-known singles pros. And he's like those loser tennis brothers who couldn't win in singles.
Maybe I'm starting to understand. You said the show was canceled?
No.
Okay.
It was on Netflix.
Oh, so it was canceled eventually.
Well, it got 4 seasons.
Oh, that's very impressive.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like, it's just funny because like I watched the show with Nicole, and like there would be these references to like tennis things. Then I just started laughing, and she's like, "What are you laughing about?"
Is it because you got it, or you were just laughing because they were so random in this series? Like, they're such far-off references.
So very specific.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like if we reference, like, Rob Conway in an episode,
yes.
you're just like,
it's like that level, except a tennis pro reference.
I'm like, Nick, remember Paul Burchill and Katie Burchill?
Yeah. I'm glad I wasn't watching then.
Nick, no, they were into incest before it was cool.
God. Oh my God, can you imagine if like anyone ever got that? God. Considering some of the weird stuff that was happening about 5 years ago on that show, when they just started like, so I know what's in your hidden search history. Guy who's running the show. Anyway, yeah. Moving away from that. To bring us back into badminton. Yeah, Haruyu is going to team with Nishida in tomorrow's doubles tournament, a part of this tournament. Taiki is paired with Kyo. Chinatsu comes
Nick,
up after...
do you think Kyo and Sonic the Hedgehog will get along?
I don't know. I feel like Kyo is like he would like probably put a damper on Sonic's vibe.
Well, I mean, Sonic already is best friends with Tails, who is also a character who's kind of nerdy, analytical, and kind of like more reserved. So I think this might be a good balance. Like in a universe where Tails is dead and Sonic needs a new new best friend, this would be like a good fit.
Come on, you wear glasses. That means you're a smart inventor guy, right?
He's like, no.
I'm an average high school student. I play badminton.
All right, fly my plane to Eggman
Island. Anyway, so Chinatsu comes up to the two of them afterwards, and Haruyu like says like, "Why were you hiding back there? Are you checking if he's gonna cheat on you?" It's like, all right. So Haruyu leaves them be and says like, "Oh yeah, you lovebirds take your time." And Taiki goes, "Huh?" And it's like, of course he knows, dude. Of course he knows. You're not good at hiding it. Chinatsu seems completely unfazed by this. I think that it's in her previous conversations, like,
I thought
Haryu's all but told her.
I was gonna say, I thought she already knew that he knew.
I think that he definitely made it known to her.
Or she just assumed that since he's told Karen, that she would have told him, yeah.
I think even aside from that, like, he at least at one point made it known to her, even if he didn't outright state it. Anyway, Chinatsu and Taiki hold hands and walk off together, and until eventually Taiki's like, "Oh, Chinatsu-senpai, you should sit down. Your foot's injured." Aww. And then he sits down with her. And she smiles at him and says, "Hey, congrats on getting into nationals." And Taiki's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm going to nationals. It doesn't even feel real, but it is." And then Chinatsu holds out her hand, and Taiki takes it, and she shakes it up and down. I was like, "Well done, Taiki. I like you even more now."
Such dorcuses.
It's so silly and cute. But then she says something very sweet, which is, "I'm as happy for you as if this were my own victory. I believe I feel this happy because you are the center of my world." And something that she doesn't say is that, the fact that watching him has saved her too. So, she was of course feeling really down on herself after, getting injured and feeling like she felt her team down. Now she feels better from that. Isn't that sweet?
Yeah.
Taiki says that his chest hurts because he's so touched by her very sweet comment, and because she cares about me so much. But he also says, "You're also my biggest inspiration, Chinatsu-senpai." And they're both very happy together. Aww. But it's not over. More cavities for everybody. She looks down at his foot and says, "Oh, did the wish ribbon not actually break?" And Taiki says, "Oh, my wish did come true." And Chinatsu's like, "Okay, well, let's replace it then." And Taiki's like, "Wait, is that a thing?" "Yeah, I made it, so I could replace it."
Yeah, I get to decide the rules.
She holds out her hands like she's Dende healing somebody, and like makes a silent wish on the wish ribbon to renew it. And Taiki says, "Oh, what did you wish for?" She says, "Not telling." But we get to hear her internal thoughts with her wish, which are, whenever Taiki aims for something, may he overcome any difficulties along the way. May his efforts bear fruit. May he be healthy, with no regrets, as he welcomes the coming morning. And, everyone from the tournament goes home. And, goes, hangs out with their friends, goes back to their houses and stuff. And we come back to school after the whole tournament's over, and we find out that Haruo and Nishida won the Paris tournament.
Woo! The stress of that one was going to keep me up at night. I was
man.
I sure hope they win the doubles tournament. I found out they were entered in this chapter.
Oh man, guys, Haruo's badminton dreams are over, except they're not. He's gonna go.
I mean, look, I assume we're going to analyze it at some point, which is Haruo basically saying, like, I wanted to get there on singles. Because that's something we've seen established with Taiki, where he's like, the whole, like, part of what I enjoy about badminton is it's you up there. You're the one who makes the mistakes.
All on your own. Yeah.
So the idea of doing doubles probably is damaging and has a ramification to some way to Haruo. But right now, it has that feeling of, like, undercutting some of the drama from the last two chapters a little bit.
Yeah. So the whole club congratulates them on getting there. I do like how Haruo shoots Taiki look and is like, I told you. Ayame is feeling really emotional about this. Like, I feel so happy for them. And Kyo says, man, you've been like that since yesterday. But she says, well, I can't help it. I'm going to miss them when they leave the team. And Nishida's the life of the party. And Kengo's
he's an asshole.
Everybody likes him. Everyone thinks he's super fun and likes hanging out with him.
Everyone loves this dude who cocks blocks everybody with a girlfriend.
We cut over to Hina and her friend. Hina's like, oh, it's almost time for summer break. And her friends be like, we got to do tests before that. And she immediately turns on her. Is like, have you ever heard of the phrase Debbie Downer? But my name's not Debbie. You need new friends, Hina. Like, Jesus Christ.
Do we know? I'm sure it's been said.
She's always around.
Do we know this character's name? Like, I
don't.
I know she has a name because I feel like Erie in our chat always points it out. It's always like, it's fucking, Nina or some shit. But I'm always curious. Like, no one ever says it. So I'm always curious what her name is. It literally is Nina.
Hina and Nina? God damn it. Seriously?
I hope this is a joke and we're just getting punked because that's very funny.
It is Nina! What the fuck?
Maybe we don't see it because every time we read it, we're like, they must have meant Hina. And they had a typo.
God damn it.
I love
She's on the rhythmic gymnastics team too, even.
I love on cue Erie Craig was here to be like, Nina.
Hina also has nationals that are going to be over summer break. She's like, yeah, I know that there's going to be practice, but then I want to go to the beach, I want to go to the pool, I want to do ghost hunts, I want to go to fireworks festivals. And then she's like, oh, fireworks festivals. And she remembers how the last fireworks festival went, where she and Taiki awkwardly wound up together during it. And she's like, oh, I forgot that happened. But she also says, I can't believe how calm I am now. I'm a different person from who I was a year ago. Yeah, it feels like that like every year when you're a teenager, doesn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah, like, I'm so much more enlightened than I was last month. Like, holy shit.
Ayame comes running up and says, like, oh, fireworks festivals? Let's go together and make some fun, unforgettable summertime memories together. Kyo walks past and someone else says, we gotta have tests before we do summer break. And immediately Hina and Ayame both turn and just like, what the hell's wrong with you, Debbie Downer? Akari and friends are hanging out. And one of Akari's friends just looks at Chinatsu and says, I just can't help but suspect Kano and Inamata. Maybe the guy carrying her on his back was. And Akari seems to know something, but she's not telling. And that's the end of the chapter. So, yep, here we are. Everyone, we're past the badminton tournament, and we have stepped right back into silly teenage romantic shenanigans again.
No, we're not going to be thinking about sports for a long time.
Probably Probably not until like the freaking nationals gymnastics come up. It seems like.
When's
So
well, we know that Chinatsu wants to get better in time for a winter tournament. So
yes.
I don't know when that is versus nationals. I feel like nationals is right towards the end of the year.
I don't remember when they established that badminton nationals were.
Okay.
But the rhythmic gymnastics nationals are going to be during summer, definitely. So, yep.
Yep.
So, that's Blue Box. Let's rev up for Chainsaw Man. Chapter 162, Fearsome.
Now, Nick, I want to just acknowledge this first panel here where we get to see our cast of characters. Like, we're all standing against Quan Chi. What a fun, lovable cast of characters. I'm so excited to see the adventures they're going to have going forward.
Yep. Nail Devil goes, "Don't kill me, please! I respect you, and you're strong, and your skin's so pretty, and I want to know what shampoo brand you use." Flicks some nails up into the air and gets ready to attack. Yoru starts to dash forward too. Samurai gets set. The nails get launched forward. Bing, 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 bing. Quan Chi deflects them with her sword, and Samurai lands with a samurai ending pose. And oh, his head's not attached to his body. It's over there. That did not go the way he wanted it to. So he's down. The scaredy cat Kobeni cousin guy drops Denji's head. Yoru reaches for a scalpel from a surgery table and declares scalpel sword, so she's got a weapon. She and the Nail Devil go together in a united front against Quan Chi, who very easily dispatches them. She kicks Yoru into a wall and then does something to Nail Devil's torso. It's it seems like she stabs it like 5 times.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, this is some real fucking John Wick shit where she just stabbed him like fucking 6 times in a second.
Blood goes flying everywhere. It gets on the scaredy cat Devil Hunter Club guy who goes, "Gah!" Quan Chi looks very disgusted by everyone. She goes to take him down, but he cowers and holds up Denji's head and cowers underneath it, and she stops. And then I think that he realizes that he's holding Denji's head and goes, "Gah!" again and drops it. So upon seeing her hesitate, the eye patch guy says, "Hey, get on with it!" And Quan Chi says in response, "An old friend warned me to never make an enemy out of this one." Going way back.
Was
there.
that what, Kishibe?
Kishibe told her that. Yeah. So the eye patch guy says, "Why can't any of these devils just do as they're told? Look, your lovers' bodies are in public safety's custody. We'd always dump them in some dish rather than return them to you."
Yep. Kind of, I think, what everybody had to assume was going on to get her loyal to the Devil Hunter Society or whatever the fuck this organization's called.
So then the eye patch guy hesitates again and says, "All right, look, let me say just one thing. Women are..."
This is, again, Fujimoto is so fucking good with humor, because there is like a moment where he's like, this guy is like, just seems like he's so exasperated, but he's always a dickhead. Everything he does. So he's like, look, let me just say one thing. Women are, and we know, we won't get to know what it is, because he is pretty clearly like killed here, and like a scene later on just shows his wife starting to feast upon his body. But he was gonna say some fucking derogatory shit right there.
Whatever was gonna come after the word "are" in "women are," it wasn't gonna be something nice.
It was gonna be some real fucked up shit. So I'm so glad we got just enough to be like, I'm glad you went out like a complete shit.
Yeah. So his wife seemingly has been the implication, who had been turned into a chainsaw monster, revs at him, kills him, and he collapses, and Nail Devil is just able to go, "Yeah, Samurai, I guess, did cut through that door earlier, didn't he?" So let her out in order to do this, and yeah, she just immediately goes down, starts chomping on his neck, and Quan Chi just goes, "Yeah, that works." And she says, "I'll pretend I lost to you guys. Kill me." And Yoru says, like, "You gotta be joking." But Quan Chi says, "I won't die. I'm like Chainsaw Man. And Yoru hesitates for a second. All the surgeons look at each other, look at the group, and say, "We didn't hear a thing."
Yeah. They're like, we were on break, remember?
We were on break.
We took 5.
Yoru picks up the scalpel sword and says, "All right, fine, I'll do it. But answer me this, though. Is Chainsaw Man stronger than you?" And Quanji says, "He's weaker, but far more fearsome than me." And Yoru doesn't look too pleased to hear that. And she rears back with the scalpel sword while approaching Quanji. And then we cut away outside as the chapter ends.
Yeah.
And that's going to be Chainsaw Man's going on break next week, so we're going to be left on that moment for a couple of weeks.
Yep. This is a good chapter. It's very funny. Quanji looks like a complete badass, which we already knew she was, but it's always cool when like a character kind of stays as established in the lore. I think it was like a cool exchange, and I just like how it all worked out. And I think that last line might be a very poignant one to Yoru in particular.
Yeah, well, she knows that, like, hey, I just fought this person and she easily beat me. So when she asks, like, hey, is Chainsaw Man stronger than you? Like, yeah, it takes her back there.
Yeah.
It's so it's kind of also hard to tell, like, are we done in this scene? Are we gonna like stick around in this base? What's gonna happen here? I do kind of hope that we occasionally see these weird surgeon guys in the future, just because they're so different from everything else that happens in this series. Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun, and let's head off from there. I just want to talk very briefly about the Kaiju B-side chapter. Look, it is almost literally like you could just like predict almost everything that happens in this. She tries to attack the crab, and the sword can't get through it, and she loses to it. And she knows that she could try taking a different approach, but she doesn't want to. She wants to, just overcome it with, her freaking weapon. She comes across the axe thing chapter. Okay. In the midst of that, the people who are observing Kikoru fighting the crab kaiju talk about this, what are its weaknesses and stuff. And so they say, what would you do, Mr. Hoshina? And he says, oh, I would chop it up like normal using these, and points to his twin blades on his back. And Mina says, your neutralization method isn't a helpful reference. Oh, what you do then, Captain? I would shoot a cannon through it and freak it apart. Very good joke. Just like very straight. I would shoot it with a cannon and destroy it that way. That's a helpful reference.
I will say this, because we're not like super high on B-side, particularly the recent story. But I will say, like, its characterization of Mino is like better than main story Mino. Like, I love getting to see this side of her, and that I think is maybe worth the whole project. But that said, this is almost exactly what we predicted this chapter was going to be. So there is that. Who knows? Maybe we won't be talking about this for too much longer. But at the same time, there's also probably going to be some things leaving to recap soon, as we'll get into a little bit later. So
yep.
I don't know. All I'm saying is I'm caught up on Marriage Toxin. So
I need to do that. Yeah. Let's talk about Eden Zero quick.
Yeah, another series that is hopefully going to end very soon. Please. Eden Zero, Chapter 283, In the Belly of Time. So, the group of characters who are on the deck show up to find Homura, and they're like, oh my god, are you okay? And she's lying in a pool of her own blood. And they're like, oh my gosh, she's so injured. And Jin's like, why is she naked? And it seems like
asking the real question.
It should be a good question. It's like, why is she naked? But of course,
well, sure, her clothes get cut off. No. Not how is she naked? Why? Is she naked?
So Valkyrie grabs more and is like, good job. You really are my pride and joy. There's a space battle between the Edens 1 and the Eden 0 that is truly just incomprehensible explosion garbage that means nothing. But basically, they're powering up their cannon. They're gonna fire a very very big beam to destroy the Eden's one at some point, and that charging panel then leads into Mother, whose ether is starting to disappear. So they have to save her before she disappears, or else the Eden's one won't be able to fire its cannon, and they're gonna lose. Because I guess I don't know. The other ship has like just guns. I don't know.
There's like 4 pages in a row here of just like people yelling while like speed lines happen around these ships.
Yeah.
So it's very, very interesting to look at.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, we can't connect to Eden Zero right now. We have to act fast. We like, this sucks. Like all that work that all of our Beekeeper friends did, like it's not going to help. We don't even know where the chronophage is. Shiki says, okay, fine. I'm going to risk it. I have an idea. You guys stay here. I'm going to go get the chronophage. And she's like, how? And Shiki just climbs into a fucking wormhole to another dimension. We know he has the wormhole power, that it can go here with something I don't know if we've established before. But he walks straight into Zhao Mei's domain. And he's like, yo, what up? Of course, she's there, and of course, her feet are on display as they are. And she's like, oh, but I think in this world, we've never met. And he's like, oh, you can travel between universes too? And she's like, no, I actually exist outside of those universes, which is a concept I can't understand based off of more information we get in this chapter. But whatever. So Shiki's like, all right, so if you exist outside, if you're one who knows all, then you know where the chronophage is. And she's like, yeah, of course, I know where everything is. And he's like, and you understand. Shiki's like, I don't have time to battle right now, basically, to make you happy. And she's like, yeah, I get it. With Mother in her current state, the situation is rather dire. And if you can capture the chronophage and return Mother to her Earth form, I'll just do it. There's no interesting wrinkles. There's no, I have this unwieldy cosmic power, but I must remain neutral or anything along those lines. He just walks up to Zhao Mei and she's like, of course I could fix your problem for you. It's done.
Why didn't you ask before?
Yeah, it's really just like, wow, you should have teleported into this fucking domain a lot more frequently, Shiki, and just asked her to do things for you. And Shiki is like, oh, so you need to keep Mother around too? And she's like, I guess you could say so. I was a satellite of Earth, but that's not important. So she's the moon, Nick. She was the moon.
She's the moon.
Why did the moon turn into a person who has omniscient powers and also has a fighting fetish? I don't understand why this is a thing, but it is.
Because her name is Zhao Mei, which means little sister in Chinese. So the character named Mother has another character related to them named Little Sister.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
I forgot how stupid this is. So
You forgot? You forgot how stupid this is? How could you forget, Quinn?
Shiki just gets teleported into space in front of the chronophage. He eats them in serious ends. And Shiki's like, all right, how am I gonna bring Mother back? With my gravity, that's how. And Zhao Mei's like, wait, you're just gonna go inside.
Your gravity. Oh, you're gonna use your gravity, Shiki. Oh, wow, how imaginative of you. You're gonna use your gravity to solve the situation. Oh.
So he just flies straight into the mouth of this thing. So Nick, there was a point in time, like maybe 4 chapters ago.
Maybe about 4 chapters.
I don't know when it was that they first established this concept. Shiki's like, I'm gonna kill the chronophage. And we're like, isn't this gonna be cool? He's gonna have like this giant space dragon fight. That's gonna be kind of cool and interesting. It's gotta be like a little different. He flies.
As soon as he flew in this thing's mouth, I realized, oh.
I knew. Of course. I fucking knew they were gonna give this stupid thing an avatar of some kind that he could interact with. I didn't expect, as it's revealed, when he gets inside of the middle of this chronophage, and there's this big windstorm that blows him away and then dissipates, that of course the person inside is just some generic attractive lady who says, give back my time. So it's not a cool element of the world. It's some sexy lady with a backstory.
Nope. So Agnologia, the dragon, the apocalypse dragon, it's a dude. It's a dude. And the Chronophage, this ethereal force of nature, it's a chick. It's just
There's gonna be
just a person, just a
there,
person that's gonna have magic punches that Shiki can magic punch back.
yeah.
I know it's ether. It's not the same as magic. Yes, it is.
There,
It's all magic.
there is gonna be some fucking stupid ass spin-off series where the Apocalypse Dragon and the Chronophage get together and they partner up. I think the Apocalypse Dragon was normally Zeph, but I don't remember fairy tale lore anymore. I'm just saying they're gonna find some way to fucking make those two kiss at some point.
I would like to extend some props to a few different people in our Discord chat. Molderman, who nearly 24 hours before the chapter dropped, say, "Will Shiki punch the Chronophage this week? Will it somehow get a human body so Hiro doesn't have to draw him fighting a space dust dragon thing?" So, which is,
Yep.
I know other people were predicting that, but it's a well-timed comment. And then I really like this exchange between Eerie Gray, who was complaining about the design and how lazy it is for this human form of the Chronophage, and Brawla, who says, "How can Chronophage design be bad if Big Booba?"
I mean, this is important, Nick. She does have some pretty massive mommy milkers, so can we really say it's a bad design? I mean, she even has like dragon feet, so it's not like, look, there's a lot of like
the dragon feet are the only good part of the design.
Yes.
Let's be real.
They are legitimately the only kind of cool part about it, because otherwise, like, you could say this character was Joker Helix, and I'd be like, yeah, sure. I don't know, like, like it's not like Fairy Tail or Eden Zero characters have like distinguishing different body types or anything like that. Like, if you're a woman, you have the exact. You're either the fucking hermit lowly character, or you're the same body type every character has, or I guess couch bow, and your whole thing is that you eat too much. Yeah.
Right.
So there's that. Not good chapter.
Look, I feel like we're at the point now where we have completely exhausted the hero is a bad and lazy writer talking point. I feel like we put more imagination into talking about how unimaginative he is than he puts into being unimaginative. So I'm just a little bit tired. I read the chapter this week and I went, yeah, I guess you would write that.
I want to make sure very clear, because I've said it in Discord, but I want to say it here. We've definitely had our fun making fun of heroes' works in the past. I'm done after this point recapping regularly. I'm not covering Dead Rock once this series ends. Maybe it could be a recap, or not a recap, like a recommendation, and we'll read it then, like Sadistic September or something. I'm just not. I'm not doing it again. We have run out of things to say about the bad writing.
There is not enough meat on this bone at this point. Like, it's just, there is not enough. This is why we drop series from doing recap. It's not necessarily even that we dislike them. It's that we reach a point where we have nothing to talk about. And this has been dry for a while in the grand scheme of things. Let's talk about something that makes us happy, Quinn. Yeah. Greens.
Oh, this does make me happy. I thought that was like a joke segue, but I legitimately do get happy.
No. I'm legitimate at this. Chapter 18, Changing. The rest of the golf
time.
No, just because it starts with C and ends in ing doesn't mean you have to do that.
Time to get to change. To the changing time that we are now in.
God damn it.
Changing.
Can't even do one. Haku plays the rest of the golf round and we speed through it because he doesn't get great anymore. He doesn't get any more birdies. He doesn't hit any more par holes from that point on, from what we've seen. He does manage to get a couple of bogeys, and he says, in the end, most of my scores had names. So definitely better than like the first several holes that he had before he had that kind of fluky birdie.
Yeah.
But he finished an 18-hole course, and then everyone, goes out to barbecue to celebrate together, and they get together with the other group of four that had gone off. And it's established that like their whole dinner is being paid for by Mizuza, who is giving them a nice little retreat.
That's so fucking sweet. Like, holy shit, that's cool.
Buying dinner for all of her part-time employees. That's very nice. They say that he got a score of 126, which of course is not great, but for a guy who's playing golf for the first fucking time, like a full 18-hole course, that is, good for you. You finished for one thing.
I mean,
and
like,
of course
you can see his score like pretty drastically improve. Like, yes, there's the 3 and 4, which are very, very impressive, but like it starts at like 15, 11, 9 strokes, and then usually he's like pretty consistently between like 5 and 7 strokes.
Yeah. Like if he had maintained the pace after the first, if he had gotten to the pace that he reaches by like hole 5, then his score would be 9 to 15. Sorry.
No, this I feel like
it would be about 100 basically.
Okay. And that's his goal.
Yeah, they say like that's like your goal in Oregon. Everyone is chiming in with their answers, their scores as well. Everyone's in kind of like the 70s, 80s range. Oga got the best score out of everyone. She got a 71. And Haku's like, oh my god, you guys are all great. And Chikara says, like, we've been playing for a long time. I've been playing for 10 years. But then he says, like, how was your first time? And Haku's like, I'm so tired. And Chikara just breaks it down very simply, which is like, you walked like 10 kilometers and you've been swinging around a steel bar doing it. So yes, of course you're tired.
That is a great way to describe why you would be tired playing golf. Because like in my mind, I'm like, I understand there's a lot of walking, but how physically exhausting can it be? But when you play something like that, you're like, yeah, it does sound kind of tough.
It can be very tiring. And then he also says like, and also like it's just completely different to be on an actual course than when you're on a driving range. And Toto says like, yes, as a golfer you got to deal with that all the time. The fact that they're not the same experience, but of course it's way cheaper to just go to a driving range than to go onto a proper course. And yeah, that's the thing is like, the only way to actually overcome that is just play as much as you possibly can, because nothing is a substitute for the real thing. But Haku's like, yeah, it was fun. I feel like I went on a grand adventure, and now I know what I have to practice. So I gotta get to work. And Toto says like, I feel like you'll get below 100 in no time. And when he hears that, he's like, what are you talking about? And Roland says like, yeah. Oliver says scoring below 100 is a starting goal for many golfers. It's a high bar. Plenty of golfers never manage it. So he says, okay, then I'm going to break 100 within the year. And they're like, yeah, I mean, that would be pretty crazy because that would be within 4 months. That would be quite a feat. So they, get back to just kind of like hanging out for a bit. And as they do, Haku thinks to himself, like, a month ago, I would not have understood a word of what these guys are talking about. I had nothing in common with any of these people. It's nice to change.
Yeah.
Aww.
Very, very cute. Very, very good.
One of the girls from the other group learns from Oga that she hit an eagle. And she's like, oh my god, I've only ever done that 4 times ever. And Toto comes over to her and she says, like, yeah, we're two of a kind, Kimi. Risk-averse golfers. And so she asks, like, well, how did you do it? And Toto says, like, oh, she took her second shot off the deck. And she's like, oh my god, are you becoming a delinquent? She's playing golf. But Oga says, like, I decided to change how I play. Normally, I would only allow myself to take a risk if the result of failure could be mitigated, and today I was willing to risk it all. And Kimi's like, but why? And Oga kind of leans forward, looks at Haku.
She slams the table like she, like lands with her elbows.
Why indeed? And then I love the way she words this, because she pauses and then she says, I won't lose next time either.
Yeah.
Like, I beat you.
Yeah, I won.
But Haku says back, next time I'm going to win 3 holes. Aw. And so they're like, oh yeah, you guys have gotten closer together and stuff. Everyone starts to say goodbye after leaving the restaurant later. And Oga stops Haku and she says, hey, when you slice, your shoulder is open.
This is such an interesting pose because when I was reading the manga at first, I hadn't read the dialogue yet. Like I just saw that panel, I was like, "Is Oka about to shoulder tackle Haku?" She's like, it almost like she was about to like square up to fucking give him the triangle tackle or whatever.
Haku, I'm gonna teach you the Delta Dynamite.
Yeah, that was it.
It's a technique I learned from the least interesting iShield 21 character.
The one nobody likes.
But that's just all she says. She turns and says goodnight and leaves. And so Haku goes back home. I mean, like they spent like the morning playing golf, all day playing golf. They went out for dinner, and now it's 9 o'clock. He's just gotten back. And so Haku collapses into a couch, and he's like, "Man, I am beat. I've got to get changed and brush my teeth." Just passes out on the couch briefly, and has to catch himself. He's like, "Oh man, God, I'm tired. All right, I'm gonna sleep like the dead tonight. I love you, bed." Goes to bed, and then immediately starts thinking about the game of golf he's just played. If he had done things differently, and he thinks, "Oh, if I just done this differently, that differently. All right, tomorrow I'm gonna try this." And the last thing he thinks of is when Oka told him, "Your shoulders open when you slice." He opens his eyes, closes his eyes, opens them again, rolls back, can't go to sleep. Gets on his bike, rides out, goes to the driving range, greets Mizusa, and she says like, "Hey, congratulations on your debut and everything." And he says, "Yeah, all the mess ups I had today, they're really weighing on my time." And Mizusa says, "Wow, you two really love golf, don't you?" Like, "You too?" Oka's there too. Also at the driving range.
How fucking late is this driving range open?
It must be like employees only at this point.
Okay.
It seems like, because it's got to be like at least 10 o'clock at night, right?
Yeah, it's 9 o'clock when he goes, like when he's at home and he's like, "Oh, I'm tired. I should go
Before
to
he gets
bed."
ready for bed. Yeah. So yeah, they take up spots on the driver range next to each other, and Haku's like, "I mean, you could have invited me." And Oga says, "I'd never do that. Go home and sleep." And he says, like, "Well, you're the reason I'm here. You're the one who said my shoulder was open when I sliced." And that's because it was. Such a good...
I love these two. Like they have such a great relationship.
And so, Haku's trying out a couple of different things, and eventually she's like, "No, do it like this." "Oh, okay, yeah, thanks." Don't mention it. And they're driving balls right next to each other. And each of them is just kind of thinking, one more step, one more ball. What a great chapter. This is so nice.
Yeah,
Man.
great chapter, great series. Oga, truly an awesome character that I completely just think is so cool. Good stuff. I love how they just motivate each other to go to the fucking driving. Like they've just finished. They have this whole tournament, and Haku gets home. He's like, "I am so tired from a day
I'm gonna
of hard,
sleep so hard,
of well earned hard work, like paying off. Like I'm gonna sleep. I could get better though." It's very, very cool.
I mean, yeah, he's like 16. That's the time to do it, I guess. Oh, Quinn, it's time for something new. A new Sexorcist, if you will.
Nick, but I still have so much mileage to get out of the last one.
The last Sexorcist? Nah, get rid of that one. We got a new Sexorcist to talk about.
They don't make Sexorcists like they used to. Back in my day, Nick, if you bought a Sexorcist, it would last you 20, 30 years. But nowadays, you got to get a new Sexorcist like once a year.
Chapter 45. Please help us level up. Oh hey, right. There was that one meeting between the level 4 spirits taking place. Yeah, they're at a restaurant and they're eating together and stuff. And one of them pokes at the remnants of the relic that was stolen before, and he says, "I can't believe this thing has this power to speed up a Hyo's resurrection." And the masked figure says, "It doesn't have that power anymore since it got cut in half. But it's fine. Our goal was to prevent Niue from being resurrected before the others." Okay. And they kind of like reiterate some stuff, and they're like, the key to resealing the Hyo lies with the ritual blades passed down through the generations to each of the captains. We must find them and destroy them. This is our next objective. I guess we wait for our infiltrator to report back. An infiltrator? Could it be one of the characters we know? Or one we're completely unfamiliar with? Ooh.
I hope it's a girl. And once Gakuro manages to uncover them, they decide to join up with him and join his squad and go to his school and her cover.
And pretend to be his sister.
No. They've done the sister thing too often. This is his cousin, not related by blood. Hot.
Anyway, they established that the tool has been destroyed, so Nui shouldn't have any means of speeding up her resurrection now, but she will still try. And one of them says, well, it's only a matter of time before we break free of this cramped world we've been trapped in. Anyway, back at the school. Is everybody ready for lots and lots of chibi drawings? Because lots of characters are having conversations where they're just standing in the room. And so they're just gonna get drawn chibi style a lot of times to just kind of make things go faster.
Yep.
Nue congratulates everyone on bringing the resurrection tool to her, but it won't work. And Gakuro's like, oh, but it's split in half. And Nue says, oh, we can still use it. I'll have to do some bargaining with the Exorcist Bureau, but if all goes well, I'll be able to bypass the required steps for my resurrection. And that tool wasn't enough to revive me anyway. So you guys did a good job. Goodbye, everybody, except Gakuro. So
I love how Nue can retroactively make all of the drama and stakes of the last arc insignificant and irrelevant. She's like, actually, this works out better than what you originally thought you were supposed to do. So actually, this is the best plan.
You succeeded by failing, which means it did not matter if you succeeded or failed.
Yeah.
Ha. So all three of the girls leave the room and immediately listen at the door. Honestly, they might as well have just stayed in the room. So while they're gone, Nue says to Gakuro, I've got to force you to level up a whole lot. And Gakuro says, are you going to train me? And she says, that's a boring way to put it, but yes. Is it?
What's the cooler way?
What's the
is it supposed to be?
Is it leveling up?
I was gonna say, I think it's just supposed to be saying, I'm gonna force you to level up.
Yeah. She says, over these next several days, I need you to become strong enough to defeat that level 4. Which means that the attack was most likely part of a scheme to prevent my resurrection. We've got some time since he thinks he's rendered this tool useless. And Gakuro's like, oh, but if he finds out you can use it, then he'll come to attack us. Yes. And we know, based on what happened, that our enemy has quite the investigative resources. And sooner or later, they will find out. So this will be some really rough training. And Gakuro says, well, that's fine. I want to get stronger, so please help me level up. And Nue says, okay. And then the girls come in through the door. They were outside secretly listening for 2 pages before they just came back in.
Yeah, like 15 seconds of a fucking conversation. They're like, actually, we want to still be involved.
And so Suo comes in and says, help us to level up too. We do want to keep on being a burden. And Nue says, like, okay, but unlike Gakuro, you girls are conventional exorcists, so I'm not an expert in training you. I'm hoping that Heiichi, one of the captains, can train you instead. I think I can get her to do it. And so, but Suo says, well, we have plenty of training as conventional exorcists, but that's not enough. We want to train with a powerful spirit like you so we can be stronger. So please, help train us too. I mean, all right, I know that she's strong, but I don't know why everyone is convinced that this is how they'll get stronger. If anything, it seems like, since she is literally like the source of Gakuro's powers, that she would only be good at specifically leveling him up. I don't know why they think this is the way to go, but anyway.
I can assume on the idea of like, we want to just go through the same training Gakuro's. Even though fundamentally our powers work sort of differently, we just don't want to do something different than what he's doing.
I guess.
Because they're all kind of in love with him.
Yeah, but I wish that they'd said something like that instead of just like, well, I don't want to keep being a burden. It's like, all right. Anyway, she says, this training will happen in another space within my room. I can only fit one more person. I can only fit one more person. One more person.
An interesting wrinkle to all of this. You know, only one of these three characters are going to be able to get their own, big power boost. This is dynamic.
This will be potentially a chance for a character who hasn't had a lot of focus recently to come back into play, gets more one-on-one interaction with Gakuro, because he's just kind of been like paired off with Shitatsu for quite a bit of the last several chapters. It'd be a nice way to reestablish either Shiroha or Suo. Yep. So maybe do it that way. Okay.
But which one?
How will we decide this? Nue says, you must live together with Gakuro in the same room for these next several days. And a bunch of people go, ah! And she says, you'll live in a studio, sharing the same bed and bath. Parentheses, toilets are separate.
I don't...
What?
know why that detail needs to be in there. I understand why. It's to, like, remove what I guess would be... I don't know, because I'm like, you're not usually using the toilet the same time, so like that seems like the easiest thing to have to share, really.
It's not a public restroom. Like, you don't need to have separate ones based on sex or whatever. Why are there two toilets if it... Never mind.
I like so you're gonna walk... This is the weirdest fucking training room where there's one bed and you walk into the other room and there's one bathtub, but then there's like two toilets. You're like, why?
Are the toilets in the same room?
I have to be back there.
All right. So Nue says, all right, if you are able to accept the terms, then I won't stop you. But you guys should take your time and think over who is going to do this. So everyone leaves the room to go and talk this over. And so all three girls are talking about it, and they're like, oh, man, this is kind of crazy to think about it. One of them says to Shitatsu, you've lived with him because you guys are siblings. She says, ew, please don't remind me. Because, whatever. And also Suo says, oh, and Shiroha, you've shared a bed with him just fine before. Because there was that time when they slept next to each other. Remember that was a whole thing where Shiroha had to, like, live secretly? Never mind. So Shitatsu says, hey, do you two find spending time with Gakuro difficult? And they pause for a second, and Shiroha goes, not really, no. And Shitatsu says, yeah, same goes for me. What about you, senpai? And Suo hesitates, and she's like, I don't know, but you two, And Shitatsu says, I have a speech prepared for this moment. I was frustrated by my inability to do anything, by the fact I couldn't move my legs, by my unreliable brother who fought up until the very end, his display of bravery. And that's why I want to get stronger. I don't want to lose to anyone anymore. I wanted to be fair to the both of you by sharing this now. What about you two? So it's kind of one of those things where she's like making a bold statement, but she's also holding back her true reasons, which is, it's a very human thing, to boldly put forward slight untruths. So Shiro's like, I'd like to ask for training as well. Nothing for her. Just like I also want it. I want that too. All right. So Shitatsu says, well, then let's have a foot race. Ready? And they disappear and are off. And Suo is left by herself on the roof, looking after them, and she thinks, you guys don't act anything like your age at all. And she thinks about how Gakuro told her and the others to run and how he would protect everyone. But she thinks, back then I was so upset, I wanted you to ask us to lend you our strength, but I could never say that out loud, even though I had said that out loud earlier the same day. But the truth is, you were doing your best to try to rely on us. Those two got a head start. She transforms. But I hope they don't think they can beat me in a battle of speed. And she starts going after them, but immediately runs into Gakuro instead. And Gakuro says, senpai, would you like to... And she says at the same time, would you like to train together with me? And they both are on the same page in that regard. And Suo says, "Oh wait, wow, you're asking me?" And Gakuro says, "Well, I was planning on asking everyone, even at the risk of getting beaten up." That sounds like Gakuro, all right. "Because I made a promise to rely on everyone more, and for that we need to grow together." And Suo says, "Well, you finally said you'll be relying on us more. I can't stay weak forever, can I? Are you okay with the living arrangement? If it's with you, I don't mind at all. Because she has a crush on him, and that is why." Uh, all right, so Suo and Gakuro are going to live together and train together. And they say, "Let's do our best." The narration then says that they later learned that there was one more training room available, and Nue thought that if they knew about it up front, it would have been harder for Gakuro to pair up with someone, so she lied, saying that she'd only be able to take in one more person. Okay. So the only reason I can think of for this whole thing of like, having to choose someone to pair up is that there are separate training rooms where two of each of them will have to be in. Maybe that's the case, but it really sounds like the entire chapter, because it ends on this note, was kind of pointless in terms of the whole setup of like, oh, choose one of the girls to train with. I think that might be the case where it's a matter of there is still going to be circumstances where it's going to be Gakuro and Suo, and then the other one, Shitatsu and Shiroha. So then there will be a way for all of them to get stronger by going through the training, but the awkward living circumstances can still be followed. That's a possibility. But it really feels like when you follow up on this whole thing of like, oh, we've got to decide who's going to train with Gakuro, and then you undercut it that way, that it makes the entire thing seem pointless that has come before it. It's just a very awkward way of doing it. And that's New Exorcist. Hooray! So we are going to continue on from there because it looks like Quinn is still continuing some business at this point. She will rejoin me, I'm sure, shortly enough, but I can't stay on New Exorcist forever, much as I'm sure we would like that to be the case, everybody. So we're going to go on to Two on Ice. It's chapter 27, Genesis, Day 0. So we are still in the short program with, the introductory for the pairs. We see Hayuma and Gisara going over their score together, and they see like, oh, they kind of like, we kind of got like scored badly on a couple of things here and there. But the twins basically tell them like, yeah, it's it's kind of like a them's the breaks kind of situation. It just happens sometimes. And also, Hayuma's like, it feels like Himuro and Sora's score is a little bit high. But they also say like, hey, you did, have a good score because they're over 50 points, which is in the range of like, oh, you'd be like competitive in domestic skating. Whereas Sora and Himuro are at 60 points, which is like, oh, you'd be strong in domestic skating. So it's obviously like not a great score for Sora, but he did like completely sabotage the entire goddamn, performance. They go over like a lot of like minutiae, which I don't think we've really got time for them to go over to the extent that they do. But this is kind of like a thing you got to get in on your sports manga is like how the actual competition of it works. And there are lots of numbers with very small differences in between them on here. And it's very dry, and that's it. Afterwards, Natsu says, we weren't after first place this time anyway, because, you were just like introducing yourself to the world. You went beyond your inner circle. You showed Takayuki Sora's fans your charm and the real appeal of pairs. You did good. So that's nice. Hayuma goes into the locker room, and there's some tension in between them shortly, but Sora suddenly just says to him, like, can I ask you something? And Natsu's like, yeah! Not Natsu, sorry, Hayuma. Sora says, you must have seen some of it. My performance was clearly wrong, but you haven't said anything to me. And Hayuma says, it did feel off, but I can't worry about others right now. If I'd been focused on you, I would have lost sight of our performance, and I didn't want to risk putting Kisara in danger. Then, he in turn asks Sora a question. which is, look, whether your skating was wrong or not, it didn't bother me so much as why you switched to pairs in the first place. And Sora is quiet, so Hayuma goes on. He says, like, look, I was told when I started off that I had the talent to try singles, and I didn't really understand at first. But the number of skaters, the recognition, the difference between men and women, the more I saw, the more I figured out what everyone was talking about. As an outsider, picking singles, which is the standard approach, it seemed like the right choice. But I didn't choose based on what people around me thought was right. I picked pairs for myself, for my own life. So Sora takes this and he's like, oh, are you telling me that I should stop worrying about what's objectively wrong and just think about my life? I don't need your concern. I already have dedicated my life to my art for a long time. But Hayuma cuts him off and he says, if that's true, why did you switch to pairs? This is an event where you and your partner are risking your lives, and there isn't a single second where you can disregard your life. And it's obvious to the entire world you would have stayed at the top of singles, but you switched anyway. So didn't you do that for the life you wanted? But was that performance really the way you want to live in place of the future everyone imagined for you? Essentially saying, like, you had this life, so you must have switched because you wanted to. Why did you switch because you wanted to and then do a performance like that? So it's a more intricate way of saying, like, what the fuck, dude, basically. It's obvious, like, to everyone that, you know, the performance that he had with Himuro was a very, very callous one. And Hayuma does make a point of, like, hey, look, if you're betting everything on yourself here, why are you doing that? And Sora just says, I don't want to answer your questions. So, because, I mean, yeah, he doesn't really have a good answer anyway. But as he leaves, he says, look, I'm just being selfish. This isn't something I want to share with other people. And until now, all I've done is hurt people. It seems like we'll be seeing each other around for a while. Yeah. So, of course, you know, the good guy tries to reach out to the bad guy. The bad guy rejects it, even while acknowledging that the good guy has a point. It's a good dynamic. Kisara goes to the women's locker room. She sees Himuro, who is freaking crying. And she's like, I have no idea how to deal with this, basically. But she approaches and she tries to, you know, comfort her and says, like, hey, you know, even though you were treated that way, like, you did some great maneuvers in that. You made no mistakes during your jumps and throws. That was really good. And Himuro just, like, sniffs and is like, you know, I'm older than you. Why are you talking to me that way? But she says, thanks, I'm fine. One day I'll become so great that he'll regret it, and I'll take that scummy jerk down. I really do wish that we were going to get a manga where this, you know, we got to see this go somewhere, where we see Himuro try and enact revenge against Sora. But it doesn't seem like we're going to get enough time for that to happen. So Kisara awkwardly says, yeah, I'm rooting for you. And then we get the news shortly afterward that Himuro and Sora have announced the dissolution of their pairing. It's the day before the free skate to continue the competition, which means that they're disqualified, and Hayuma and Kisara win by default because they were the only other pair. So yeah, and they're worn out the next day, and they, like, are collapsing and stuff. They're not doing their best. But everyone's like, yeah, their short program was really good anyway. I kind of like them now, and people are saying, like, I'm a fan of these guys now. And then they go to the award ceremony, and they're like, what? We're the only pair. Why do we have a ceremony? But they get to get some medals for it, and it's kind of cute because they put the medals around each other's necks and they pose for a picture. And hey, they got first place in this little regional figure skating competition where they were the only qualifying pair. Afterwards, the Natsus get on the phone with Sei. And Natsubi says, like, yeah, we talked about things with our coach, and I talked about this with Natsuya, and I've got a decision for you. We want you and your husband to take over coaching Kisara and Hayuma, because we've got our own careers to focus on. So please take good care of them. Makes sense, you know? It again, it feels like we would see a lot more of this, if not for the fact that this series is definitely getting canceled in a couple of weeks. If that, it might just be next week that it ends. But it says like, hey, I'll take up the torch, so you guys just focus on yourselves. But then, the Natsus are like, we're gonna really miss teaching these two, but at the next championships, we're gonna compete as rivals, and their small achievement had a subtle but sure effect on the others. And we cut it around again, like to these, like somewhat established pairs, and we see the formation of another one, which I don't even know if we've even met this girl really properly before. She says that she never was able to win against Kisara growing up, so maybe we saw her in some of the flashbacks at some point. But she approaches Mukao Yuzen and says, I heard you're a genius, so pair up with me because I want to conquer singles and pairs, and I know you've got your sights set on Hyuma, right? So let's beat the two of them together. He just seems surprised. Sora is riding in the car, driven by his manager, and is like, "Oh, is this your first time getting dumped by a girl?" Of course, she wasn't going to keep doing pairs with you. He says, "We're letting her hide in a safe house for now, so I hope you've reflected on your actions." Yeah, makes sense that with all of Sora's rabid fans, that she would still be in danger even if she stopped pairing with him, because they'd be upset with her for breaking up, quote unquote, with Sora. So the manager says, I hope you've learned your lesson. You'll be nice to the next one. And about our favorite trash girl, she went in for questioning. Want to hear what happened? And Sora refers to her as the pervert who got through security and was dragged off. And the agent says she had some interesting testimony to share. Ooh. There's like reporters that we get introduced to. I don't know why we're introducing characters at this point in the story, but we are, who talk about a bunch of stuff and how this debuting pair did a side-by-side triple axel and everything, even though they've got all this time dedicated to Takayuki Sora. Then there is a junior AD who talks about them like they're freaking fantasy characters going up against a demon overlord. And he says, if we sell Kisahayu now while Sora is out, we won't need just Takayuki Sora. We can make numbers with pairs itself. This is a great opportunity. Yeah. And so the main AD is like, oh, Kisahayu, huh? I feel like supporting them. December 25, 2022 will be a Christmas without the gift from God, and the Japan Free Skate Paris Championship will get its first ever live, full domestic broadcast. But won't that be fun? We're definitely going to see that competition in full. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, God, this is harder. All right. Elusive Samurai, chapter 152. So Mora is now confronted with Shizuku. Oh, hey.
I'm so sorry,
Welcome
Nick.
back.
You've had to talk for so long.
I have. Welcome back. I finished talking about New Exorcist and then talked about all of Two on Ice.
Well, this is an important time to talk about how we may not have Two on Ice for too much longer.
Yeah.
Last episode, last episode was like where we were future seers unintentionally between the My Hero discussion and this, because we had said like, oh, there hasn't been any announcement for new manga yet or anything like that, so there will be some canceling. Immediately this week, Mama Yu ended, and there's going to be 2 more series after that. So most likely Two on Ice is one of them. Probably Shadow Eliminators is the other one. So it does seem as though we're going to be ending Two on Ice very soon, which makes sense. Like, we're starting to get to this point of like vague little details of the future. Hey, Moo or whatever, or Mukao. Mukao gets a partner really quick. We never really got to finish up on that. Here's all these things.
I don't know if we've seen her before.
No, honestly. this is to my knowledge a new character.
She refers to Kisara as like well, she does say her name in full, straight up. She's like, I'm Rika Katsuse, as in the women's singles rep for the Beijing Olympics, and I never got to win against Kisara when we were growing up, so now I want to beat her. So just gives her whole character spiel immediately.
Yeah, just drops all that little info. And
Sei is going to be the kid's coach now instead of the Natsu twins because they're going to be rivals now. It's all but confirmed that Trash Girl is going to be Sora's partner. Himuro is swearing revenge against Sora. So
yes, so it does seem as though we have 1, maybe 2 chapters of 2 on Ice left. But yeah, it feels like this was a pretty significant one where they're like, a whole conversation about like, actually pair skating is the big deal right now, so we're going to give it full coverage. So it's like, oh, then Kisara and whatever his name is will get to have their big moment in all the attention that it deserves. Because it's not going to be niche anymore. They're going to prove to the world why pair skating is so special.
All right. The Elusive Samurai.
Do we have to? I mean, look, I want to try to cover for you. You've had to talk so much. I want to give you a little bit here. Shizuku, she's a ghost girl. She's like a spirit, and she uses her magic to kind of get everybody away. But then the nobles are like, we're scared, so they retreat, and it fucks up the whole army's plan. So Kie has to retreat. Who gives a shit? That's not what this is about. This is about Shizuku, who's a ghost lady whose clothes were cut partially, and she can't repair those clothes. She can't like put on a new top. She's like, no.
No, she can. She establishes she can, and she's like, but I'm not going to.
She's like, yeah, because she sees that Tokiyuki is like, I am very embarrassed by seeing this much skin from her. She's like, perhaps I shall wear this all the time. But also that she has to like constantly keep up her ghost power because otherwise the rest of her clothes will fall through her body. I don't know why that needs to be established, but whatever. The bigger thing is she's like, I'm going to sacrifice myself. I'm going to use all my ghostly spirit to basically help you win this upcoming battle because it truly looks hopeless. And I will fulfill basically my duty as sort of this god, this magic for your army. And Tokiyuki's like, no. And he hugs her because he's like, you're not going to go anywhere, actually. You shouldn't shorten your lifespan. In fact, I order you to serve me for the rest of your natural life. So there we go. They're basically like, hey, we're going to win the information war using our spies. We have another one now. Like this is going to work. So don't worry about it. Don't sacrifice yourself. And then, yes, she ends by being like, oh, perhaps I will continue to do this, my lord. And I'll dress this way because it makes you excited. Which, sure, whatever.
Yeah. I feel like this should be a bigger, more dramatic chapter, but it is hideously undercut by the silly little jokey jokes that happen. This is a character that we've known for a very long time saying, like, I will sacrifice myself in order to save everyone. And Tokiyuki saying, no, do not do that. But he's doing it while, like, physically trying to hold her body together. So it's like, it's silly. And then she's like, maybe I'll just walk around bare midriff all the time now because it makes Tokiyuki excited. And it's like, weren't you talking about dying like 5 pages ago? Like, what is going on here?
I will say there's parts of it I do like. Like, I do like that Tokiyuki like correctly examines, like, look, I know that you've kind of always felt that you're not like a human thing. You're like sort of this divine, almost like godlike blessing for me. But like, you have human elements, you have like your own particular habits and character traits and things that are undeniably human. And that's what I need from you. It's not your divine strength. It's your strength as a human being. And I'm like, that's a good message. That's how you should like emotionally like raise the chapter. And it's kind of weird because like the mystical element that this series has kind of like peaked in like the first instance. There's like a chapter, you can go back way back when Shizuka showed Tokiyuki like the spirit world, and there was like a big 2-page spread of all these animals appeared at like a lake, and I think you had a quote, you're like, this is a special manga.
My words were, this manga is special.
Yeah.
And then it did not live up to that.
Yeah, I feel like there's more interesting ways to show the magic of this character, the mysticism of it, something that would just be more dynamic and interesting to look at. There's better ways to pace this chapter out to hit those emotional high points. Because as it is, his hug is almost meant to be a little bit like cutesy because he's grabbing her specifically also around the part where her clothes have been cut off. So there's like a oh kind of face to it. And it's just not cool. Like there's no magic to this in the way that this character should. And I guess maybe that's what they're trying to say. She's human, but if the way you're going to express your humanity is through her like nervousness over a crush, it's just not really interesting.
All right. Akane-banashi. Story 105, butt out. Yeah, Akane on the cover page doing the Kamehameha pose. Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Taizen finishes up his performance. And there are a couple of people who do recognize, like, it does seem like he had a bit of a different performance than usual. Our journalist friend says, I guess it worked well, given the mood of the event, but I should have expected, that's something that great from one of the Arakawa Arch 4. But on the other hand, I don't think I've ever seen Master Taizen in such a good mood. Taizen escapes to the green room. Akane comes to see him and offers him some water. And he just kind of, holds his hands for it. And she's like, oh, yeah. And gives it to him. And then he bows and thanks. It's like, this guy just does not talk when he's not performing. And she also says, like, oh, Master Chocho's performance, it just ended a moment ago. So he'll be coming back now. The speech comes after that, so please make sure you wait in the wings when it's time. Thank you. But then Taizen stops her. And he says, I'm sorry. The guy's like, well, what? Sorry for what? And Taizen just is bowing to her, and he says, I made you worry about me showing up late. And the guy's like, oh, it's fine. Besides, who cares about our competition, our deal, or whatever? This is supposed to be about Anisan's Futatsume promotion. And he thinks about that for a second. And he smiles, and he says, about your recommendation. And then Zensho appears. Just like a freaking horror monster, because he comes in through the door right really behind Akane.
It's very terrifying. Like the panel's all black.
This is a goofy looking guy with giant eyebrows and an afro, and he looks scary for a second.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a guy with like a large round face. Like he looks like he should be a DJ or something like that. Yeah. And he's meant to be this terrifying figure. And there is a moment of that where you're like, ooh, get out of here. Stop being around this young child. Get out of here.
Yeah. He just, he says, like, look at you hiding here. It took me ages to get here. But that's fine. Taizen, orders are meant to be followed, aren't they? He puts his hand on his shoulder. And Taizen just looks back at him and he says, oh, what's with that I've made up my mind look? Why would you do that? It doesn't make sense, does it? I'm your master, and I said... don't give it to her, didn't I? And we have to listen to our masters, don't we? And he's gripping onto Taizen's shoulder. Like you can see it, the cloth curling around his fingers. Akane says, excuse me. Nice to meet you. My name is Akane Arakawa. Shouts it right next to him. And Zensho just literally... Yeah. Dismisses her out of hand as we're busy, doesn't even turn to look at her, so she's like darting around behind him. Excuse me. So finally he turns to look at her and says, what do you want? And Akane says, this wager is between me and Master Taizen. May I ask you to butt out of this? Fuck yeah.
This is very cool.
So he does finally turn and look at her, and she's just staring very calmly but determinedly at him, and so he starts to get pissed off again. But before he can say anything, Taizen steps past Zensho and says, Master, my mind will not be changed. I intend to give Akane Arakawa a recommendation for promotion to Futatsume. Art is everything in the Arakawa school. That is an unshakable fact. And she might one day be a Rakugoka worthy of Master Isho's esteem. A Shinuchi. And Zensho says, and who are you to say that? But a new challenger appears as Shigama enters and says he's reached his conclusion, so drop the Bush League antics. Chocho invited me to come see this event. And what do I see but this miserable disgrace? Get your sorry hide out of here. you should know that this isn't the kind of topic to discuss at someone else's debut event. So, Zensho is quiet. Shiguma looks at him, and Zensho finally puffs through his nose. I was leaving anyway. I can't help but notice that you've turned out to be a very selfish man, Taizen. What an asshole. Just insane.
I love how terrifying this next moment is. Maybe not terrifying. Nick, have you ever played any of the Ace Attorney games?
Not played, but I've seen some playthroughs of them. I think I know what you're referring to.
You know how, like, when you finally catch the culprit, like, they fucking freak out and do it. That's what this is his Ace Attorney, like, you've passed enough of the break points, and now I actually am breaking down in anger fucking moments, because I love he just sits out there, he's just whacking his fan, and then immediately he's like, he just starts smacking everything.
Rips the fan in half, stomps on it, just damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. Pissed off at Taizen, pissed off at Akane, but most of all, Shigema Arakawa! Get your sorry hide out of here! Like I wasn't already doing that! You'll never find a calmer man than me! And he stands there ordering me around like he's better than me! Oh no! I'm better than him in scale of prestige! Better! 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 That's right! I'm better than him! He can't even raise a single... And it's not done. The humiliation train is not done for this man.
There's almost an ounce of pity for me. Like, this poor dude has just gotten his shit handed to him by 3 separate characters, walked outside, and then a 4th one showed up, and it was like...
You dropped this shit, sir.
Yeah, it was like, hey, king, you dropped your crown of shit.
Mike Karu shows up. And he's like, oh, a single Shinichi. He can't raise a single Shinichi. Is that what you're going to say? Yeah, it's me. I'm Mike Karu. It's been a while, yeah. Oh, you did show up. Wow, okay. Yeah, I'm glad I came here with my master. And Zensho's like, you're Shigema's pupils. Oh yeah, I've already sent word to you, but I was hoping I'd get to say it to your face. I've got a date for my Shinichi promotion test. So why don't you stop playing tit for tat with my little sister apprentice and spend some time with me instead? No more silly little games. And Zensho gets a big old grin on his face, either forced or because he's like, oh, maybe I can spoil this shit.
I was going to say, I feel like it's tough to read, but I feel like this is to set up this guy is going to do everything in his power to fuck this up.
Yeah. I'm sure that honestly, this really feels like it's going to be a curb stomp in Mike Karu's favor. It's going to be like, oh, I'll humiliate this guy instead. And Mike Karu will be like, no, I was ready for this. And just it's like, I'm great. That's kind of feels like the big shonen moment that happens here.
It'll be interesting to see because so much of the relationship with the Sao is that he has never given a Shinichi to any of Shigema's pupils. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like you're like, well, is he going to before it has to be Akane's turn? And Meikeru is kind of that barrier. There's also Koguma, if he decides to like go for that. But it'll be interesting to see. Because I think there is potentially a world where Meikeru doesn't pass here to keep that slot a little bit open, but there's such a huge time difference that you would have to establish. Like Akane would have to get past him.
Years and years
like,
would have to go by.
Yeah, so I don't know if they can necessarily do that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this. And the one thing I truly hope next chapter is I want to see, I forget his name. It's his fucking event, but Motorcycle Guy. I want to see his Rakugo.
Asagao.
Yeah. I really want to see that. So I hope we do get to see that as like the conclusion to this arc.
I think that's probably going to be the case. I think we got this whole confrontation and conversation in place of Chocho's performance because we've already seen him perform very recently. His performance isn't really the big thing. It doesn't have any dramatic weight to it the way that Taizen's does, and of course the way Akane's does. But yeah, if Asagao, we do not get to see his performance at his own promotion event, that will feel like it is directly contradicting the message of this is all about Asagao, this is all about Akane wanting to make his event a success. That seems counterproductive, and I would lose a lot of respect for this series if that happened.
All right, but that's it. There's no One Piece still off. Oh my gosh, Nick, this is like right under 2 hours. If we get through everything else, we could do a sub 2 hour podcast again.
Yeah, guys, it's time for the conclusion part of the
Faster,
show.
Nick. What are we doing here?
So what do you want to talk about?
We have MVP.
Favorite series and MVP. Yeah, okay. Why don't you go first?
I will. Yeah, I think I'll do. Chapter of the week is gonna be Green Greens, and I think I almost want to give character of the week to Afro fucking shithead guy. Yeah, because
absolutely,
it's tough. You want to give it to somebody who shit talks him. But everyone who shit talks him does such a good job that you're like, am I going to share it between 4 characters? So instead, it's just going to be him, who is such a shithead dude that you're like, every one of these was so satisfying to hear.
I like, even more than him getting shit talked, how much of a goddamn tantrum he throws outside. It is such a, just like 2 pages dedicated to him losing it. And it's like, yeah, you didn't do it in front of anyone inside, but you're like a public figure, my dude.
You're supposed to be kind of a decent deal. You're one of the Arakawa Arch 4 or whatever, so...
Crazy. Yeah, I'm doing it for Zensho, absolutely. I just, because it is so satisfying to see him get his shit kicked in here. I think my chapter of the week is... I think it's going to be My Hero Academia. It's just kind of like, because, hey, I think I'll give some, recognition to the series for proving me wrong and actually having Deku lose his arms. And actually, yeah, making good on all those indications of like, wow, you could lose your arms from earlier in the series. And honestly, no chapter surprised me more when I was reading it this week than it going from that to, oh no, Deku's gonna die. Not so fast. Zero will save the day. But yeah, Green Greens was absolutely very, very good as well.
The audience, by the way, picked Akane-banashi as the chapter of the week, and I believe it's Taizen as the character of the week from Akane-banashi. So big week for Akane-banashi.
Absolutely. That's going to do it for Weekly Manga Recap, everybody. We will have more for y'all next week. It's going to be here on twitch.tv/RoloT. We'll start the show as we normally do, probably around 7:30 to 8 Eastern time. But if you want to know exactly when the show goes live, you can join our Discord channel and also participate in fun discussions involving the chapters as they come out. There's like games and activities that happen on there, and other stuff that's like available if you want to, participate in adding your thoughts on who the MVP is and everything like that. Add those to the Weekly Manga Recap Google Doc that is maintained by Ninja X3i. Participate in the chance to pick a recommendation straight up through the Money in the Bank challenge of WMAR Jeopardy.
Oh gosh, yes, that is coming up super soon.
Coming soon. Whew, boy. And other stuff as well. If you wanted to check out more Weekly Manga Recap, we're on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, on iTunes, on Spotify, video episodes on youtube.com/Weekly Manga Recap, where you can see the opening sequence by Milo Jack Slitz and Winsley Dale Cheddar, and occasional title cards done by Steve Man, whose artwork you can check out by just searching for Steve Man Art, basically anywhere online. And we also have a Patreon, patreon.com/Weekly Manga Recap, if you want to see bonus episodes on a regular basis and also financially support the show. And I think that's going to do it. I believe that's everything.
Yeah, that's going to do it. And guys, I think we're going to get out of here just under sub 2 hours. I finished my Sonic drink. So, I'm going to go fast. Actually,
yeah, to go fast.
I'm probably going to go to sleep very soon. Not a lot of sugar in that, actually. That's
okay.
Yeah, surprising. Know. It was like blue raspberry syrup, lemon juice, and seltzer water. So,
drink my drink and then go to bed.
I'm like, thanks, Sonic. If you want to honk shoe like a winner like me,
shoe like a winner.
Try my hydrosity. That's the problem with this drink. By the way, it's called the Pure Hydrosity, and I'm like, no, it's Hydro City. You can't do this to me, Sonic. Bullshit.
Oh boy. That's going to do it, everyone. Catch you next time.
Bye.